Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this episode, we host the incredible Leah Withrow, the head groundskeeper of the Reno Aces, for a recap of our talk at the National Sports Field Management Association conference. Sports field manager, that's a thing. Definitely named by her, but it was an awesome time to sort of connect after the conference and discuss really everything that was going on when it came to our presentation, sort of how it was received by people at the show, and really post-conference seeing all of the great feedback that we received. And really something that I really enjoyed about this podcast was that it was a great opportunity to sort of explain what the process is like getting a presentation put together, sort of the endless hours that go into making sure that it's well executed and well prepared. We discuss how Leah and I, since probably November, worked on our presentation, changing it where we see need for it, and then adding more where we saw other things that were important. And we just had an absolute blast. I can't speak for her, but it was great to have this opportunity to talk with someone who has such a great passion for sports field management and everything that is our industry and what we all know and love. Leah really embodies that and shows that to all of us through her work on social media, and being able to take all of that and sort of put it in a presentation for you guys. It was an absolute blast, and it was great to really bring awareness to a problem that I think is sort of plaguing our industry when it comes to just the overall awareness of sports field managers. It is always something that has been an issue when it comes to our industry, and making those who are not in our industry aware of what we're doing and who we are and how significant we truly are to the stage of what sports is. We talked about how where the game begins and how truly important that is. People don't quite comprehend the significance of the fact that there's no game without us. There's no playing surface. There's no way that any of these major sporting events on the professional level happened all the way down to those little league events that your kids play every single Saturday. There's just so many opportunities that are there for the taking. And something that we really wanted to harp on is that it's our duty and our responsibility to really go after and find those next generation of sports field management professionals. And I think we did a pretty good job on sort of showing you how social media has a real impact on that, and being able to show firsthand the work that we both do on social media, whether it's something like this podcast or something like a TikTok. How something so little and so truly simple can have such a large impact on something that's truly incredible and dear to all of our hearts. So it was great to be able to sort of hop on the podcast and really recap everything that you might have missed at the conference that was in our presentation. So again, Leah, I appreciate everything that you do for this industry and all that you do for my students. And the support for our program is unparalleled. And there's no way I could ever repay you for that. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. All right. This is a little post-conference Pioneer and Tiger Turf Talk podcast with the incredible Leah Withrow. We're just talking, you've been a little busy and everything. How was sort of SFMA and coming back to the real world, which we all love sometimes,
Yeah, it was a great week in Salt Lake City. Cold, but productive. Got a lot done. There was a lot we did, just the two of us, let alone like the rest of the conference and everything that was happening there. Learned quite a lot, met a few new people, got to hang out with some old friends, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff for sure. We did do a lot. Um, I found it funny is that it was cold, but apparently it was a lot warmer there than it is now back in Reno.
Yeah, we finally got out of single digits, at least in the mornings. So that was improvement towards the end of the week, but
That's where we're
it's
heading.
chilly. It's been chilly here this week.
Yeah, for sure. Any pushback on stuff for prepping, or are you still on schedule?
I mean, still waiting for a lot of our snow to melt. Unfortunately, this time last year we were out doing a lot more than we are currently. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast, but looks promising in the next 10-day forecast to finally get some warm weather to melt it all off.
My field's getting destroyed in a day. It's like my heart's falling off or something. Can't even. They ripped everything up around it, and Mondays or tomorrow's the day they take it all out. So, I'm having a weird year, but so let's get into why we're having this podcast to talk about our presentation at the conference. It is sports field manager. That's a thing, which was your great title. That again, I was like, I don't know what to title this, and you're like, let's just do this. I said, all right, screw it.
Yeah.
What did you think? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you had this brilliant idea to do a presentation to even begin with, and then let's
start at the very beginning. Let's do the very beginning, just so it's all out on the table, and I'm not the ass, and everything's out there. So when did I ask you specifically? When was that?
I have no idea.
Was it
All for presentations was in like September, I think.
So it was after the Softball League World Series.
I think so.
Okay. So I called Leah and I said, hey, got an idea. Would you be interested in presenting with me at the national conference? I'll take care of presentation and all that. Just we'll get it set up. I think you just said, yeah, sure. There wasn't like a big conversation or anything with it, but it was like, yeah, of course. What did you say to me when we got the email and you called me?
I was like, I said yes, thinking there's no way SFMA wants to hear us talk about this. And so I was thinking like, no chance, like our presentation gets selected. So I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, Drew. And then it got selected. And I was like, oh, crap. Well,
there was a couple.
Let's figure it out, I guess.
There were a couple expletives in the call. And then my favorite part about the whole conversation and the talk was you called me back like 2 minutes later. You said, wait a second. Are they paying for rooms and travel? And I was like, yes. You were like, oh, I'm okay. It's all good. That was my favorite part. I will not lie. That was good. Now what I kind of want to also talk about is
got a free trip out of it.
It's always good. It's always good. Max, benefited. That's always good. Mm-hmm. Something that I always want to talk about when it comes to like presentations, people don't quite comprehend sort of the time and effort that goes into it. On your end, how much prep time would you say that we did, just for the presentation portion, not the actual like development of the, guess the development too, because we talked about it before I even really started the presentation part.
Yeah, we threw around some ideas of like where we wanted it to go, like a general direction. And then you did most of the heavy lifting by putting the actual slides and stuff together. I would say what we started like seriously having meetings about it in November, beginning of November. You sent me the first draft of the slideshow. We went through some changes, what we wanted to move around. We did another meeting of going through it one more time. We did another meeting of presenting it to each other. Then we did another meeting of presenting it to some friends.
Shout out Maritza, and then, Morgan, Danny, and Mrs. Witt.
Yeah, shout out them for listening to our pre-presentation. And then in Salt Lake, I was a nervous wreck. So I was studying the whole night before Monday night. Everyone's like, come out and get a beer. And I was in my hotel room, in my pajamas with all my notes and note cards and trying to remember everything I had to say. Cause there's a lot of important points that I really wanted people to take away from our presentation. And like once you get up there and you're looking at slides and pictures and faces in the audience, like sometimes you just go blank and are just reading off the slides and not hitting the points that you had previously talked about. So I really wanted to like make sure our key points got through, and I think we did all right. I blacked out. I have no idea what happened. But I think
Did you watch the recording?
No, I'm scared.
Leah, just watch the recording.
I don't want to hear my own voice for one.
Okay, let's talk about this. I have a podcast and I hate the sound of my voice. You can do it once.
You don't listen back to all of your podcasts.
I don't listen to any of them. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so it's not that weird for me to not listen to our presentation.
No, I said you can do it once. And I do listen to parts of a lot of them because I have to edit them. But you can do it once to hear how well you did. Because I think what you mentioned was like the fact that we had so many points we wanted to hit. We got to the point where we were like, all right, these are the buzzwords we have to hit. Like, this is what we want to make sure we say. Community, setting a precedent. I don't know what the other ones were. What was yours?
I blacked out. I don't remember what I was supposed to say. Honestly, I had made all of these note cards and then
I told you wouldn't use them. I told you.
I did practice a lot though. I like went through all of my slides many times to make sure like
you did great. Sorry, I think it glitched out a little bit there, but you did great. I don't know why you think you were going to be bad at it. You know?
I'm not a public speaker. I don't speak to people for a living like you do.
First of all, I have issues with public speaking and I'm a teacher. And yes, that makes no sense at all. But when I get in front of a crowd, it's like, oh boy, here we go. You know, like last year at the general session, I was afraid to walk on the stage. I was like, I'm going to trip. Before I even start, I'm going to fall right on my face. You know, it's going to be like, presentation over. I got to go. Nope, can't do it. But I also think it was good that we got there a little early. I think that was the sort of the bow on top of everything. We got it all set up before we got to talk. So, but now I do want to get into like our presentation. I could pull it up if I wanted to, but I kind of don't want to look at it. Let's do this before we get into the presentation part. What was your sort of feedback from people at the event or after the event, post event? What did you hear from all of the, I mean, no, again, I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but we were talked about a lot by a lot of people. A lot of people said it was the best one they went to the entire conference.
I got that a lot. I got a lot of positive feedback. I had a few people come up and was like, if I didn't go to any other session, like, I'm really glad I went to yours. Like, that's what I needed to hear. And that's what we're like trying to change our direction towards. So like, it was something that at least resonated with some people in the room. I mean, it was standing room only at one point, so that was crazy. But it was something that
I'm sorry. I'm going back to the guy that commented on the post that said, yeah, I'm sure it'll be a full house. And you were like, I saw that tweet, Drew, and I was going to kill you.
Yeah. Well, it went well.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, we did have a lot of people who at least benefited from it, and that was the whole point. So as long as one or two people got what they wanted from it, then we did our job.
Yeah, I mean, what was really cool to me was that it wasn't just like the younger generation there. We had a really good mix of kind of like everyone, because obviously we had like our friends there who are again our age, a couple that are a little bit older. But again, like they're a part of our generation in the sense of like social media and whatnot. But like, I remember the guy in the front row kept making comments on stuff. He's like, how do you think this would be beneficial to me and whatnot and all these different things? And well, we pretty much hit the nail on the head with your 20 minutes on a TikTok got you 6, game day staff guys. Like that's kind of worth your 20 minutes, So, but I mean, there was a lot of, I actually got a little bit of constructive criticism from a couple of people, which I thought was very good. If we were to do something in the future, which I know we're not, it's okay. The only thing that anyone really said constructively was that if we could have done like an actual like demonstration of like setting up a TikTok, you know what I mean? Yeah. Which
the problem is like, words.
I'm
like
thinking, yes.
I agree, because like it is something people should
there was, like,
learn
a
if they want to
camera.
use it, because that's what we kind of focus on a little bit. But like the overall point of the presentation was like getting the younger generation to be a part of this and all the different avenues we could go with it. I think social media, it was a big percentage of how to do that, but I didn't want it to be the whole thing.
No, I agree with you. And I think my biggest thing would have been, because I think we talked about it for a little bit, was like you should start a TikTok like on the way there, which, my goodness, it would have been the greatest TikTok ever. Poor Max. But the like sort of like, hey, this image goes to that. Even if it was just one of the shorter TikToks, like the issue I think we would have had was actually like displaying it on the screen. You know, like it's not like a shared screen where we can put our phones on it and just like beep boop boop done. Like, you know, that was kind of like what I was like, well, I don't know how we would do that, was my response to them.
Like, I mean, we could, cat.
Biggie Smalls, calm down, man.
She's being a monster. She's being destructive in my office right now. I think like thinking in the future, like maybe doing a like webinar or seminar on how to do that would be productive. But like for this talk specifically, it was, I mean, reaching out to your community, like reaching out to high school programs,
Community
how to get to that demographic, how to, I don't know if you can hear her.
You can. Love you, Smiles.
She's like sitting in my chair across from my desk, and she's like hooked on it with her claws, and she like leans her head back and meows at me. And I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Pay attention to me. Pay attention.
Yeah. But I think for this specific presentation, it was an overall view of different avenues that you and myself have tried to be able to explain to the general public, to get the next generation in, to explain to current turf managers what the state of our industry is and how to increase membership size in the SFMA, how to increase people coming into our industry,
for sure,
and all the different avenues to get there. So I didn't want social media to be the whole thing. Unfortunately, that's what I know. So that's what I presented on.
That's what we were trying to do, you know?
Talk about that in the future of doing something if people want to learn more about it. I just didn't think many people wanted to.
Leah, you just went a little bit, you know, of a possibility of doing something in the future. I'm just saying.
You know,
most people wing the door open when they get a creak, you know?
Yeah, well, you be careful with that open door.
Okay, me, really?
Got me into this.
Again, it's not a mess. You did phenomenal. I don't know why we're saying it's a mess. What was I saying? Sorry. With all that, was that it? What was my little?
With everything.
With everything. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
I also think like we were super worried about audience participation.
I was going to say that was my next point.
We had a lot in the beginning. We had a lot of
audience participation right now.
She's very intrigued. We had a lot of questions afterwards, which was great. I think we had a lot of we had that comment from Ryan Bajorn, which was super awesome. Like he made two really good points that were like, we didn't have this technology. This is every day of my life, by the way. The cat just interrupting everything I do.
Gotta love it.
But he made good points that like, we didn't have grow light technology like we have now. We didn't have auto mowers like we do now 10 years ago. Like we didn't have TikTok 10 years ago, but that doesn't mean like we can't use it as a tool.
Little best friend.
Mm-hmm. So that, and like what you are doing with high school students and just making it a reality for a younger generation who we didn't have those options, and seeing how much it's increased across the country of high school programs. So was good to see the audience like taking in what we were saying and adding to it. That was, I think, one of the biggest takeaways I had from it. That was like, it was resonating with people and it was sparking other ideas that like of points that we didn't make and they were seeing. So that was cool.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Ryan's comment because that was a big one. I mean, one of my favorite parts with you was the what was it? The shoot. Why am I blanking? Oh, the resume. You know, like the fact, because we had talked about that for like an hour on alone. Like we could do a whole part of our presentation on the fact that this is a virtual resume. Like, when you're talking about, I mean, people who say things and people who are like in an interview and you can say whatever you can say, but the fact that you're able to back that up with visible evidence, that's something that not many people in any industry can really say, other than maybe like a certificate or like a accreditation, like a engineering something. I don't know, but I think that was probably one of my favorite parts, was the fact that it was like that. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but the whole room went, "Oh shit!" You know, like it was like, she's so right about this. You know, it's like you don't really understand how much it is, but like moving forward, like I do see that having a big impact on sort of where we're going, you know, as an industry and as a professionalism aspect of what you're doing.
Well, yeah, when you broadcast everyday things that you're doing that you think are just everyday routine maintenance, but like you have to write it down on a resume, but then you can show proof that you are adequate in that, or you're proficient in that
area
bullet point. Like you are proficient in edging, you are proficient in fertilizing or different things, like being able to, yeah, back it up and like physically show a future employer or coworkers or your bosses at your own stadium that what you put in your job description and what you put on your resume is actually what you're doing. Like it builds trust in those people, and that like you are actually doing your job, or you could be qualified for this job, are things that like in the past you just have to take somebody on their word that like they know what they're doing in this resume, or they know what they're doing as far as this job description is concerned, like they're doing their job to get this raise. Like now I can actually prove it.
Like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what you need to be aware of. And I think the other thing, hopefully you can still hear me. The other thing that I think it also that we didn't touch base on is that if we can provide evidence to people who make the money decisions, people who are like, oh, shoot, you guys go through a lot. And there's a lot of different things that are going on that I don't really recognize when it comes to money going into your budget, you know? I think that's a huge thing. Like when you're talking about justifying, like, hey, I need a new mower. This thing has been through the ringer. This is not doing the quality of work that we need it to be doing. I think that's something that we could have touched on, but again, it wasn't really what we were focusing on, but it's something that I see that sort of area going towards. I mean, and you are definitely be more of a person to speak to that, because obviously you have a different way of things, because I don't really get anything when it comes to asking for things, you know, just, you know, public education, you know, no biggie. But I mean, am I wrong?
I mean, I think one of the biggest takeaways I hope people got from it, and we listened to some Tiger Turf podcasts on our way home from Salt Lake, because we drove from Reno to Salt Lake. So on our way home, we were catching up on some Tiger Turf talk, and we listened to Jimmy Simpson's podcast about like how I love him too. He's one of my favorites. And so neither Max or I had listened to that one yet. So like we turned that one on as we're driving, and like he made a lot of good points about how like poorly our industry has been marketed in the past. And like we are always a behind the scenes job, and we're always like it's a thankless industry, and like you just show up and do your work and you go home, and that's how it's been in the past. But I think moving forward, to gain traction towards our industry, we have to change that marketing. And Jimmy talked about it a lot, and it was 100% true. And I sat in the car that day and I was like, damn, our presentation, like it hit a lot of those things. I wish we would have maybe focused on a few more of those points of being like our industry. Like when you think of a groundskeeper, I think the first thing that comes to mind is unfortunately like an old cranky groundskeeper that you've seen like a 1 or 2 ESPN interviews of
Bill Murray.
Like, yeah, you don't see like a professional walking out dealing with a weather situation. You don't see a professional, like you see certain people in the news a lot, or you see certain images of groundskeepers or a stigma behind groundskeepers. And it's like trying to change that and highlight what we do and showcase like all of the layers that are a part of our industry. Because there's the art layer, there's the science layer, there's the labor layer, there's the fun layer. There's so many parts and pieces to this world. I wish more people saw. And I think it's starting to change because of social media and because our marketing has gotten better and being able to showcase that we are professionals. We are where the game begins. Like we are a science-based industry, and it's just highlighting that stuff instead of what we're used to seeing. And then Jimmy hit the nail on the head of just like, we're working towards it. It needs to be better. I 100% agree. And I think using like what we talked about to get kids into it, to get them to understand, it's not just like Bill Murray showing up,
blowing up some gophers and stuff. That's always good. But yeah, I mean, my biggest thing, I think that we really did a good job with talking to Jimmy. Like, there are so many different things that we can be doing, and we discussed probably like 90% of them. One of the big things was community. And when we really got into that, it wasn't just one community, it was about developing that greater community, whether that was through your TikToks, was it through the program, was it through reaching out to people? It's just bringing people to that sense, like you said, something different, and I think Jimmy talked about, I could be wrong, but he specifically talked about how we need to realize that we're a community of giving, where we're providing more opportunities than we are really being the grump, like you said. And we've seen sort of this, again, astronomical change over the last probably 15 years when it comes to events. It comes to all the craziness that you deal with every single year. And if you probably turned your calendar, it's probably already filled out by now, but all of the things that go into that, like people don't comprehend, like you're probably one of the best people that does it, is like showing the good sides of it, authentic. That was yours. Being authentic, sorry, that was,
gotta nail that one.
I got
but
it.
It's true. Cause like, unfortunately I grew up when I thought of groundskeepers, or when you Googled it, or when you looked at articles, it was old guys on mowers or on the Sam Pro doing a quick interview. And it was like, that's not relatable. Like, especially for a young, like 18-year-old girl looking at going into this, like that person, like, I hate to say it, like that doesn't represent me. Like that doesn't seem like somebody I would like get along with. That doesn't seem like somebody who I could be one day.
A work day like, with,
Yeah. Or like, that's not somebody I could be one day. That's not something I want to do. So I'm trying to change that with my social media and just kind of showcasing all of it. Like, it's not all glamorous. Like, there are some days where it's events and events and events and events. And some days where I look out on the baseball field during sunset and I'm like, God, I am lucky. But if I don't show that to people, the good sides as much as bad sides, you don't get a full picture. And I'm hoping like people see me and like that brings young people into it, because I think we're so used to seeing the old guy. I hate bringing that up, and I know all the people.
We love you, old guys. It's okay.
We do love you. We need you. But it doesn't represent or give kids coming into this a good picture of who are groundskeepers. Like, there's a lot of young, great up and coming groundskeepers that are at high level positions doing fantastic jobs that aren't being seen, and like getting to show kids like, oh, there's a Daniel Cito at the Panthers, or me, or like just seeing a young, vibrant community that's growing and like excited about our jobs and not just the cranky old groundskeeper. Like that's a huge turn of marketing events that needs to like continue to snowball and grow us. Potential for myself here. Little did I know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's something that I don't know who I was talking to, but again, like I think that the next generation, I mean, even like, I'm not even talking about like my kids. I'm talking about our generation. We're sort of still like that next generation, according to, again, the people who have been doing this forever. We're kind of the ones that are like, okay, well, people are starting to retire, you know, like, and they deserve it, everything that they're doing and whatnot. But like, I was talking to a couple people like McNitt at Penn State's retiring. Like, that's a big move. Like, that's someone who's been bringing in that next generation for like a long time. And who's going to be the next person to bring them in? Who's going to be, you know, it's people like you, people like Danny, people like Ryan, who are actively looking, actively participating in bringing that next generation in. Like, those are the things that I think we really got into, and we really kind of, I mean, opened the eyes to the people that, again, who haven't, they're not, it's not ignorance at all. Please, nobody come after me. But like,
they just truly don't know how broad of a reach you could get.
Yeah.
Where our generation does, I guess.
Yeah. In a way. I mean, that's when we talked, you had a MySpace. I laughed at you when you did that. I was like, really? You had a MySpace? Bro.
I did have a MySpace.
That's even outdated for you. Okay. Like, that's when would you have that MySpace? Middle school?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was going to say, I only had a Facebook until I was a junior in high school. And I was like, pretty much the beginning of it. I could be wrong, but like MySpace was like, I mean, middle school for me if I were going to get one. But the fact that, again, like, I also think we opened up the eyes to a lot of people. Like, we're have all these people like, oh, we can do this and get the labor through doing this, and this has always been the way. To guess what? How many high schools surround the greater Reno area? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. There's at least 5 to 10 high schools within a 20-minute drive that you could be pulling people, like, again, just sending a flyer to their career counselor or their guidance counselors, like, just being open to who we are, you know, like, and again, for you being a young woman in the industry, that's like eye-opening to an even greater, you know, audience, you know, because a lot of people, like you said, they see the grumpy old man, and it's like most females that are in my classes are like, yeah, I don't really think this is a thing for me. I enjoy it. I love it. And then you have a couple of them that like, oh, I could really do this because of people like you know? And I think that's just something that I think people are starting to understand, you know, like, it's not like this has always been the way I have to do it, you know? And we definitely did sorry, go ahead.
I think in the same, and I hate being the like,
I know. And I didn't mean to make the comment.
Whatever. No, I'm saying I'm not a huge, like, I just come to work and do my job type person. I don't really think about my gender being a factor.
I know.
Until I got this head job, and until I saw like the reactions from your students and young girls. And like, I just hired a female intern, and she told me in her interview that like she wanted this job because I was here. And in no other circumstance would she have applied to go from Auburn to Reno unless I was here. And like, I truly don't understand the weight of that until like things like that happen. Like the phrase representation matters. Like, I never fully understood what that meant. Like, I heard it all the time, and it just became like watered down to me until like the Liz's of the world come up to me and tell me that like they want to do it because they saw me doing it. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, I had that in Nicole Sherry. And that was awesome. But Liz is getting it to see it in the Nicoles and me and Morgan and Maritza and like so many more as we go, which is going to be a huge shift for our industry, as well as like having people like the Dannys and the Ryans and like younger groundskeepers that are representation for young guys as well, that get to work side by side with them and understand like, oh, like this is an opportunity for me in a reachable distance. Like it feels like I can't be a head groundskeeper till I'm like 45. And when you're 18, that feels like forever.
Yeah.
So
we're getting closer
those
though.
Guys, seeing those guys and like younger groundskeepers in their positions, it's like a more realistic goal for them. It doesn't feel so far-fetched for people.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Sure.
And it's same with like Greg in San Francisco, who's super technology oriented and is happy to like try new things. He's not the like old grumpy groundskeeper that's like, oh, if it's not broke, we won't like, it's fine. Like, don't fix it.
Again,
and,
we
like,
love you guys.
So stuck in their ways, and just like, I get it. And it's worked for many years, but like, think times are changing. We gotta stay in 2023 and make adjustments, and having guys open to that and showcasing it on social media and like show the Travises of the world, showing all the technology that's worked for him. I mean, it's really increasing our industry standards. It's increasing our reputations because we are scientists. We are increasing technology. We are with the times. We are improving playing surfaces with all of these factors. And I think it's shown a lot. A lot of improvements.
For sure. And again, I hope you know how much, I mean, you obviously know how much you mean to Liz and whatnot. I mean, you didn't respond to that text from the other day, by the way.
Get on the list. I don't respond to many text messages.
Okay.
Send me an email. I'll probably respond.
Did you see the picture though that I sent you?
I know. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying. No. You're fine. Did you see the picture though?
Yeah, it's sweet.
It's very sweet.
Cry again, and I'm not going to cry on this podcast.
No, never. I would never make you cry.
But like that really, like,
for those that don't know, Liz, my student, has a picture from Charlotte and it's her background on her phone. That's what I'm talking about. Sorry for those that are confused.
Drew sent me a picture with Liz holding her phone, and it's her home screen is me and her and Charlotte. And like stuff like that. I remember if I would have had the experience she did, I would have been the exact same way. Like that's a life-changing experience that clearly means a lot to her if it's on her lock screen on her phone. And like, to me, I'm just doing my job. Like I'm going to work every day and doing what I need to do at my job. And little do I know how many eyes are on me and like looking to me for guidance. And so I'm trying my hardest to be a good role model and represent our industry and in the best way possible for these young girls and guys. Like I'm sure there are plenty of young guys that have seen what we do here in Reno and all of our cool patterns and Max's shenanigans and who knows what else. And it's like, you know what? Like groundskeeping looks really fun. Yeah. Like they are young, having a good time, putting out a great product. Like that's a career or a place I'd want to work. Like that's the goal.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great. This is why I'm a high school teacher. Like I always get asked like by parents, why do you work here? Like, why wouldn't you go work where you used to work and whatnot? But seeing a kid and just the moments where they're like that aha moment, it like, I don't know. It's just sort of what I live for now, you know? So we'll get less sentimental. I apologize for that. One of the things you were touching base on, and you brought up Travis. What? Sorry, you said something?
I didn't say anything.
Okay.
No.
So you brought up Travis and technology, and I think we did a good job of talking about that, but I also didn't make the connection. A lot of these younger kids are like driven by technology. They love the up and coming things. They love the drones. They love all of these like different things that can be going on. And I think that that could be a big draw for a lot of people, you know, when it comes to being a part of this industry and being that next generation. So what do you think? Obviously you spoke to a little bit like, but with all of the different technologies you have out there, how do we sort of, and it's not replicate because I love Travis and no one's like Travis, you know, but how do we get more of that out there? You know, hey, this is technology based, science based information that we use on a daily basis that most people don't understand. That's what drives our decisions, you know? Yeah. I don't know if there's
I'll give a shout out. I'll give a shout out again. Like Greg Elliott in San Francisco does a great job of it, especially on Twitter. Like he posts his drone pictures and he was able to like buy new flooring on one drone picture. It was like, look at this spot with the old flooring, look at this spot with the new flooring. And they're like, oh crap, it did that much damage on the one spot. Let's just order the new flooring. It's like, okay, by using that little piece of technology, he was able to benefit off of one drone picture, which is crazy. And I also remember like last SFMA, when your kids were presenting, you had one student who was like really into the like designing of
Franco
new technology for turf purposes. Like it's the new, you said, proficiency in like 5 to 10 years when they're in college building all these new autonomous mowers or new drones or automatic lights for stadiums and things like that, where you and me might have thought of the idea and was like, that's not possible. But then you have a student in 5 years who's like, has it come out and is making millions of dollars, and we're like,
and
well,
you're like, where's my million?
Like,
whoa. Like
we thought about it. We just couldn't figure out how to execute.
I've already told Franco, I get the first million. I brought you this industry. I need a little bit back.
I think that's fair. But that's exactly what's going to happen. It's those kids that are like driven by the turf world, but also driven by the technology part of it, that are going to like combine the two and increase us tenfold. And I'm super, super excited to see that, because kids love technology. They've only known it. Like I've said, like the social media aspect of it, but as well as they've never known a world with, I mean, the next generation coming up in 10 years, never going to know a world without Tesla. Think about that. Or without a Siri or an Alexa in their home. Like they've only ever grown up with an Alexa in their house, where a robot can just answer all their questions for them. Like that's a crazy thought to think about, but like they're the generation that's going to increase the technology because that's all they've known.
Can I tell you something?
We're old.
No. Oh yes, but no.
That made me feel really old.
No, the kids that are like in my class right now have not lived in a world without an iPhone.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Think about that for a second. Like that's insane to me. You know, I remember
that's where we sit.
Remember
like,
iPod
how do we
Nanos?
Tap into that market?
Remember
and
iPod
those kids
Nanos?
That are like, I just want to tap into those kids, and like the kids that love the ease of technology and being able to channel that into our industry. I mean, possibilities are endless.
For sure. So running with that, we obviously had that part at the end before we wrapped up, was the untapped group. What was the untapped group? Do you remember? I'm going to quiz you.
High school students, my favorite.
High school athletes specifically.
High school athletes, yes. Which, I mean, you were. We played sports all growing up. Many thousands, hundreds, millions of us do. We get to the high school level, we play our varsity, soccer, baseball, football, basketball. And no, that's probably the end of it. But we still love sports and we still want to be a part of the game. We just don't know how. And that is a large untapped group. And that's what I was. That's what you were. That's what a lot of us are. And like, it's not uncommon. It's more than practical that all high school athletes would be interested in something like this. It's just highlighting the right parts of it for them to spark their interest and giving them a good full picture view of what we do.
Absolutely. I mean, the other thing is like there are other options of staying in sports, but again, I'm not trying to down talk anyone that's like, you know, ticket sales and front office and GMs and all that. The thing that I've noticed, and that you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that all of those jobs, you need to have a very big in with someone to be able to climb a ladder like that. You know, like most baseball GMs are either former players or someone who worked for one of the top GMs, like a Theo Epstein or something, right? We have people like Danny Lazito. Danny's what, 31, 30?
30.
You're 25, Danny. Sorry, we didn't mean to say that. Like that is an extremely young age to be the head groundskeeper anywhere. You know, you were 25, 24.
I was 25. I'm still the youngest AAA head groundskeeper.
Shout out you.
At 27, which is wild to me. And there's a lot younger at the double and single A level, like Ben Hartman in Wichita is 24 at a double A club. Like that's really young to be a head groundskeeper. And like growing up in this industry for me, like that was never a possibility at 24 to be a head groundskeeper. I never thought at 25 I'd be a head groundskeeper, but that's the state of our industry is like you're getting into it a lot faster. You have to learn a lot faster. That learning curve's getting shorter and shorter. And we're figuring it out.
For sure.
It's working okay.
I mean, I'd say it's more than okay. I mean, you're doing pretty damn good for yourself, you know?
I think I'm doing all right. I'm staying above water.
I mean, national field, you don't know.
Well, kind of staying above water. I don't know if you saw my planter box flooding this morning, but
yeah, I did. What happened there? I was laughing. I was like, what did Max leave on?
Yeah, our landscape company that does the front yard failed to turn the water off this winter. So
that would do
our
it.
backflow broke and thousands of gallons of water was flowing into our planter bed this morning at 9 a.m. I almost took my rubber duck from
you should have. Oh, that would have been funny.
Floated it out in the pond.
Everyone would have loved that. You would have been.
It looks like a koi pond. We're adding a water feature in front of the Reno Aces ballpark.
Don't pay attention to any other running water anywhere.
Max flung a penny in and wished the water would go away.
I love that, man.
It's a wishing well now. Anyway, right. We got the water turned off and it's all fine.
Everyone in Reno wishing well. You heard
it does feel good to not be underwater, except for my planter bugs right now. But I'm hoping those high school athletes see opportunities sooner. I think that's super enticing as somebody getting into the industry to know that like your like 5-year plan isn't unrealistic.
Exactly.
Like if you want to be a head groundskeeper for a minor league team right out of college, like in the next like 2 to 5 years out of college, like that's a realistic goal, which I think is awesome. And it's going to bring more people in. I think trusting our younger generation more and more has been huge. I think they want it as well more and more. Like they are ready for the responsibility more than I think I was.
I hear you. No, and again, like that's the big thing is like the fact that these kids get that sort of misrepresentation of like who they are, you know, like
they really do. And I mean, our generation does too. I mean, we dealt with it where
I don't know like, if I'm misrepresented, but yeah, most
they
of
don't
us.
want to work. And it's like, no, we're working our butts off. And it's the same thing like our parents are now saying about Gen Z. It's like, oh, they don't want to work. And it's like, no, they do. They just are asking maybe a little bit more because we live in a different world than you did 20 years ago.
They know they have the power to ask for more money. I've found that out real fast, you know?
Yeah.
I was crazy. I forget who it was. One of my former kids was asking for a raise at Virginia Tech's grounds crew. And I'm like, you're asking for a raise after 6 months? I didn't get a raise in 4 years. Are you crazy? Like, what are you doing?
The times are changing. And like,
I know. I'm with you.
It's like a slow progression to the change of this new generation. And I know it's hard for some people, but like the sooner you accept them for who they are, the easier they are going to be to work with and the more you're going to get out of them. And I'm like really optimistic about the next generation compared to probably some, but I think we're just really dogging on them, and they haven't proven they deserve that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you work with them day to day. I mean, there's certain people, some of them I'm sure that deserve that stereotype, but I'm sure there's a lot that don't.
I still remember that conversation. Oh, your kids are great. I was like, you've met like 10 of them, but yeah, they're great. No, but the way you just said that was like literally perfect. Is like being optimistic about the fact that if you accept them for who they are, they're going to make that connection with who you are, and then everything just becomes easy, not in the sense of like everything's perfect at all times, like everything's going to go through perfectly and prepping for a game, prepping for a series, but you're going to work through it, and there's not going to be a disconnect of, okay, we're just going to give up now. Like we're going to go sit in the shop while you do all the work. No, it's we're going to get this done together because I have faith in you and you have faith in me, and we're in this together, So
it's a lot of that. And it's a lot of like, they would rather work smarter than harder. Like they're not just going to run through the wall because you said to run through the wall. They're going to look at options to go around the wall and like try to see what other things we can do to make this easier or climb over it. And then like, if the final option is to run through the wall, they will, but they're a lot more inclined to like look at an easier option, which I'm all here for. I would much rather work smarter than harder.
You have that kid figure out something like, why have I not done this for 10 years? Yeah, no, that's definitely
like I'm all in on new ideas. Like give me all the new ideas. What do you want to change? Like what have we been doing that's like the old school way of doing it, but like we could increase productivity just by changing one thing. Like I fully accept that, and I'm hoping like future groundskeepers continue to do that as we accept our new next generation in, and not try to change them to like what we were working with, but to work with them and change for them.
And I think it's so critical, to take the viewpoint of everything you just said was like literally perfect, like if you're looking for someone to bend the knee in terms, I'm not a Game of Thrones guy, but I know that's the term from Game of Thrones, but like cow tip to everything you need, everything you want, like there are some people that will do that, and that's good for you if that's what you really need. But like, if you're allowing someone to be a part of it, if you're allowing them to have a, look who's calling me. We are just talking about it. Franco. I don't know if you can see it, but Franco's literally calling me right now. So that's funny. But if you like, so he's a prime example actually. So when he came to me, he wanted to do something completely different with what we were trying to accomplish. And I always put it on my kids, and it's their vision. And for that year, that's what they get to say, that's where you get the buy-in by empowering them to have a say, by empowering them to, and here's my thing. It's like, you don't actually
ownership. They want ownership in what 100%, they do.
100%. And you don't have to like give them all of it, like you can like, and no offense to younger generation, like you can make them think they're a part of it, but they're not, in a sense, in the nicest way possible. You know what I mean? Like you still want what you want, but you allow them to take like a percent, which is really not changing anything. They're still going to buy in. And that's not my kids, which again, they know better than that with me, but I'm talking about in the moment when something is critically needs to get done the right way, obviously, whatever it is, but they just want to be seen and present. You know what I mean?
They want a piece of the pie, and they want a little bit of ownership and stake in it. And that's valid and fair. Like I always wanted a little piece of what we were doing. And I felt like everything I was doing was for the team and like for our crew, but like it wasn't a whole lot for myself until like you get further into it and you're like, oh no, this is my thing. Like I'm really good at this and I'm being noticed for this. And my boss and Joe being able to be like, you were stellar at this, like this is your thing. And like fully accepting that, it gave me a lot more pride in what I was doing. And that's all this next generation wants. And I think the sooner we accept that, the easier it'll be. And it's hard for some of the older ones, but like we're telling you right now, this is what the younger generation wants.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that, I mean, you keep hitting the nail on the head. I'm just like going 1,000 different directions with it, but The fact that mentors play such a pivotal role in that, I think our presentation really brought that without us really pointing it out. But mentors are such a huge part of that working. You know what I mean? I don't know if you got to. Sorry, go ahead.
Huge. No, it is a huge piece of it. I think we did highlight it accidentally really well.
That's what. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. We didn't have like it written down anywhere, but it was like.
But like in our little network part where it was like us just knowing each other gives opportunities to the next generation, because they just have to reach out to one of us and we know 14 people that could get them where they want to go. And technology obviously helps with that, being able to call up anybody I want or DM them or text them or see them on Twitter. And like that was there 10 years ago as much as it is now. So like we have that benefit for us, but I love the mentorship aspect of all of it. That's my favorite part of this industry. Absolutely. It's what got me to where I am, and it's hopefully what's going to get more people in.
And I think that the big thing is like we're aware of that as like that younger generation is like, because like here's the thing, Danny is like, I'm sorry, Zach, you're getting called out here. Danny's like Danny is what you and Liz have is what Zach to Danny, you know, like every like 2 weeks comes in. He talked to Danny recently. What's going on? Like, I was like, have you talked to him? Like, why don't you text him? Because you can do that. You know, you have his number. Like, it's just there. And again, we touched base on it in the presentation. And I think the theme of it, I mean, moving forward, just in general, all it takes is one, you know, like, yes, it was a weekend and yes, it was an NFL field, but it wasn't the NFL field that got Zach like fully invested in this. Like we're sitting down next week looking at all of the schools he has opportunities to go to for turf. Like Danny gave him that opportunity to see what it all is, but he connected with all of it because of Danny, not because it was an NFL field, not because it was anything else, because something else I noticed is that everything they were doing on that field is what we do on our own at Brentsville at a high school field, you know, like it's the people. And that's like you said, that's the best part of this industry, you know.
I would 100% agree. Like we grew up, like, I think you have somebody that like you can think of that like changed your life in this industry. I have somebody, and like, I'm sure you could ask anybody, there's probably one person that like really sticks out to them as like their mentor throughout everything. And I'm hoping like it's so much easier now to contact a mentor that this increases. Absolutely. Because it is true. Like trips like that, or like, yeah, the Little League Softball World Series was awesome. Like it was a cool experience for anybody to be a part of. But for Liz, she never knew any different. She's never worked on an all male, like she works with your students, but like there's girls in your class. So like, she's never been like so involved, like, what's the word? Not involved, but like impacted by just the fact, encompassed by the fact that like it's an all female crew, as much as she was just happy to meet all of us and to be around all of us and to soak up all the information that we had to give her, whether it was a male or female, if it was Chris or us talking to her, like she was dialed and soaking up every piece of information like a sponge. And it's the same thing. Zach
Sedmack, yeah.
I was watching him listen and hang on every word Danny said. Like he was soaking that up every second. And like, that's where we get kids. Like take the minute to talk to a kid who's interested in this. Have a phone call, have a text message, answer a DM. Like this is so easy, and kids are so eager now, and they're way more confident than I was ever to reach out to somebody. Yeah,
for sure.
So like, and they have the access to now. Like I never had that access to just DM somebody on Twitter. Like if you are getting those kids reaching out to you, like please answer their questions or send them to somebody who will, because that's how we're going to get them.
So with like all like Steven Lord is his name. He was our, what's the word?
Moderator.
There you go. I saw a post the other day from him, and he's like, I don't post W's that often, but it was a text message from someone who he talked to once, you know, like, and he's going to Wisconsin for turf grass now. Like that, I literally was like, that's what the talk was about, you know? Like,
we were talking about
Yeah,
people.
no, and like that's just such a cool thing, and one that I think's really like, and it's different for me because obviously I work with high school kids and I have probably more stories than most people when it comes to like again having that impact. I feel so bad. I can't remember the kid's name. Still one of the craziest things that I've ever done. This is before COVID, but I had a parent contact me. They lived in New Jersey, and the father was retiring from being a cop, and they were looking for a place for their son to go to school. And he was very interested in turf grass and lawn care. He had his own lawn care company. So, like, well, we need to look for schools. And I guess they just Googled turf management programs in high schools. And there was mine at the top, apparently. And so I get an email from this mother saying, hey, we're going to be in the DC area. Is there any chance that we come and see everything? And I remember just showing them, I mean, everything. I was very like, it wasn't weird, but it was like at the same time, they live 5 hours away and they're going to move down here to come to the school because of the turf program. Like it's kind of a big deal, but at the same time, like, I'm like, I mean, just meeting the kid, seeing how excited he was, and just like his parents were like, this is unbelievable. I've never even heard of anything like this. So the year comes to an end. I get an email saying, hey, we're not going to be moving to DC. We're going to be moving to Florida. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time. I think it was last year. I got a text from the same mom, and she's like, hey, so I don't know if you remember us, but we came down to see you about the turf program from New Jersey. And I was like, hell yeah, it's great to hear from you. She's like, we actually didn't move to Florida, but she sent me a picture of her son with Tony Leonard with the Philadelphia Eagles. So like,
nice.
It was like this moment of like everything. Like again, just talking to him, because I talked about Tony. I think I recently like met with him or something, but like I was talking about like different opportunities like in the NFL and all these different things. And they reached out, and Tony, I mean, connected with them and down on the whatever the field's called. I don't remember what the field's called. Sorry, Tony. But the beautiful Tahoma field. How about that? But you know, it just like that was so crazy to me, you know, and I don't know where he is right now, and I don't know if he's in college for turf now, but I know for a fact that after meeting with Tony, she said he was so excited about an opportunity going into school for it and whatnot. And I was just like this full circle moment for me. I don't know why I told that story, but it was just so cool to again see somebody take the initiative. And again, one of the greats, Tony Leonard. I mean, it's just so awesome just he brought him in and like helped let him shadow, you know, just sort of like your story and how you found the Diamondbacks, you know. So that's
what it takes. But it's also commendable for you that like you've built such a big program that when you Google it, like yours shows up, and that you would take the time and opportunity to talk to this family and explain all the options and all the avenues. Like I'm glad I took the opportunity at NDSU to meet with their head of their department, and that he was nice enough to take this 20 minutes just to explain what it was all about and like comfort my mom in the fact that like I wanted to pursue this as a career, and she had no idea what it was about. I had no idea what it was about. And like to explain all the, again, like the layer thing, like there's a science, there's an art, there's the labor aspect, but like it takes all of it for it to work. And you took the time and it changed that kid's life. And that's hopefully what like we can all do is take the time. I know we are all so busy. I am guilty of being like, I'm too busy for that. I am the queen of I'm too busy. The fact of the matter is the important stuff you make time for. And that's important stuff you should make time for.
Absolutely. And again, you definitely do, you know, and there are so many things that we don't take into account. And I think we did a great job in the presentation on trying to bring that into account, if that makes sense, you know.
I think so too. I think us being able to share our stories.
I was about to say at the beginning of the presentation, I think got everybody.
Yeah. And hearing how other people got into it, like most of the time it's random. Like I would say 70 to 80% of people
Yeah.
randomly find turf
Found it
management.
on a poster. Found it in a thing.
Never once was like watching a baseball game and saw the grounds crew dragging, been like, that's what I want to do when I grow up.
Is the only one.
Yeah. So like, it's like a random finding of this, and it's hopefully going to transition into like a known career option in career centers in high schools, in career centers in colleges, and highlighting all of the aspects of our world and not just the grunt labor of the stadium and all that stuff, but actually like highlighting our like technology advances and our scientific research and different things, and all the aspects that we love about our industry can actually be marketed properly and highlighted for the next generation so that it's easy to find and that it's not a random stumble upon as much as we all grew up with.
Right.
Hopefully it's like a normal career and we can increase our labor market. And I mean, that's just me being optimist, but
I mean, you're the biggest optimist I know.
I'm trying. I'm a glass half full type gal for the most part.
I'm the glass.
I also just have a lot of faith. I've seen a lot of good things happen in this industry too. I've seen a lot more good than bad. I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen the decline in labor as of recent. And like, I don't think it's something we're stuck with.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the older generation feels like, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. And like, we're stuck with this labor market. And it's like, that's not true. We just have to do a better job of showcasing it and highlighting the good stuff and marketing us as professionals and not just the dirty groundskeeper. Sorry, I keep bringing it up, but that's just, I have this like picture in my head.
I'm gonna put a picture like on the
it's been
on
like
the screen
it's like a
this.
core memory that's been ingrained in my head of like this. I have it. It's like a
I'm gonna send you a
picture
of
yeah. It's like somebody on a John Deere mower, and it's an older gentleman. I couldn't tell you who it is. And it's like a poster for like this poster has to be older than I am, for one. And two, like, this just does not represent our industry properly. We just need to work on that part of it. I'm pretty sure that poster is from like the 80s, but it's like so ingrained in my head that like that's what a groundskeeper is. He was in jeans and like a button-up like farmer shirt on this John Deere mower at some ballpark. I couldn't tell you who it is. I couldn't tell you what it was, but it's in my head, and I just want to change that poster so bad.
Better not be Toma.
It was not Toma.
You know, he'll
but I just want to change that poster so bad, because that's not a good representation. It's not a good marketing for us. Like we are young and older professionals who've worked really hard in our positions and love our industry and believe in our industry, and just need to like push all that forward to the forefront.
I'm just thinking of that picture from the presentation that you're walking across the infield like a badass and be like, yeah, this is the new representation. But no, I hear you. I mean, the biggest thing is like, and again, I think the SFMA is pushing is for more diversity and whatnot, is like it can be portrayed a certain way by even just the association, you know, like I think, and we can get into this if you want to. I don't know if you're gonna want to get all controversial or not, but the keynote, you know, with DeMarie Smith, you and I were talking, even though you wanted me to go away, it's fine. We were talking. Yes, you did. Don't even lie. We were talking about like at the end, it's literally the comment he made. It's one little petty thing that we have to do to fix our problem when it comes to our voices being heard, you know, about natural versus synthetic. Is like, we can go to the Super Bowl press conference and corner him. I'm like, that's what we have to do, not the years and years of science-based research that's been done by the NFL, which, by the way, again, points the direction of everything that we're saying is true. And they're denying all of that. Like, what do you sort of see in that sense? And again, we don't have to do this if you don't want to, but like bringing the groundskeeper to the table, you know, if that makes sense.
I see, and I've had this talk with Amy Foudy. Shout out Amy. She's like my
Love you,
therapist. Amy's the best. I love her to death. And she's like really been a huge mentor to me in the last year. And her and I had a really good talk when we did a panel for a facilities conference in Vegas. And we had a nice little lunch and talk about bridging the gap between a lot of the older generation, and I'm not trying to make it sound old. I hate saying older generation.
You said it 1,000 times.
Like I really do. I genuinely hate the segregation between like older generation,
the OG and the new G. Is that what we're trying to?
Yeah, I hate that terminology. I hate it so much. Like genuinely don't see a segregation, but because we've labeled ourselves that way, because our generational differences, it has like parted this tide of like
the old way and the new way
separation. And it's like, if we could somehow bridge that together, like being able to like form a like younger generation group under the SFMA umbrella, like to be able to feel like we're a part of it.
Yeah.
And that we have a say and that we can make change, because we do have a great board. I love our board of directors, and like we have made so much progress. Shout out President's son. We've made so much progress in the last decade with all of the past presidents and other board members. But you look at that board and the average age on that board is probably 45, 50, 45.
Dr. Straw is probably one of the youngers on there from Texas A&M.
Yeah. But like
30s.
generally and qualified to be on that board. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it would be nice to get younger people a part of that somehow.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to showcase like what we're seeing in the industry and what we think would help, so that when the, whatever his name is, D. Maurice.
Shout out D. Maurice for coming out. I was eating my lunch.
Yeah, shout out for even like showing up and like not being afraid of a room of 1,000 groundskeepers and just saying what he was thinking. Like that takes a lot. And I know we can be a scary group because, again, in the past, like we're the grumpy groundskeepers that always say no, and like we don't like people on our fields and stay off the grass and
another big
all that
Jimmy
old
thing. We need
stuff.
To make more of our fields.
Yeah. So like shout out to him for like even coming into a room and just taking on whatever question was thrown at him. I just see more opportunities being able to bridge certain gaps with using each generation.
I hear
I
you.
guess.
No, it does. It does for sure. I mean,
because I feel like what he's saying, he's triggering the older generation into like us. They went into their own spiral after that little talk, that keynote. They kind of had their own thoughts and things about that, where the younger generation saw that like, yeah, it was probably a little bit petty to like say what he said, but the younger generation was like, oh, that's an opportunity. We just have to spin it into a way that is progressive for our industry, that is progressive for our NFL groundskeepers that are currently dealing with the situations, and bridging that gap with the players. And like, those are opportunities that the older generation, I hate having to say this, but like the older generation,
let's create a new word. The OG.
And it's not to their
original generation. The original generation.
It's not to their fault that they didn't have the opportunity. Like sure. It's a different world, and communication is slowly getting better between the leagues, either Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, NFL. That communication is starting to flow better. I just think younger groundskeepers that are in it day to day right now, seeing the politics and things that have to happen, are more aware of the opportunity that they have to take and twist to get what they want. Whereas the older generation just sees it as a dead end. Like, oh, we are not showing up to a press conference spew out a petty thing. Like that's a dead end answer to us. Where my generation would be like, how can we twist this?
Bring me.
Yeah.
Like, let me at him.
That's where things are like kind of weighing out, is like, which way is it going to fall?
For sure.
And I'm hoping like we can use all generations to continue a flow of communication for these issues. I hate segregating us, but it just is, there is, what is it, a generational divide? Yeah. It is real. I'm not saying it's not. I just hate saying it. I hate that there's a generational divide. I wish we could all just want us all to hold hands in a circle. Yeah.
Kumbaya, right?
Kumbaya. Let's do that. I'm just trying to be a glass half full kind of gal here.
You're gonna have a Zen meditation presentation next year at SFMA. All generations invited.
Yeah. It's an optimist training. How to look at the positive side of things. Stop being well, this is never going to change. We're never going to get this to happen. Or stop that mindset. Stop it right now. It's not going to fix anything, and it's not going to make anything better. Like,
Leah's going to come around. Leah's going to come around with the fly swatter and slap you on the hand. Stop it.
I need a ruler and start slapping people on the wrist when they say negative
Let me
thoughts.
Tell you something. That hurts.
I know. Then maybe you stop doing it.
I didn't do anything. Okay.
Guys, think positively.
Yes, for sure. And I think you brought up like the optimism of the generation that again is the up and coming. Let's call it up and coming. You know, like the ones that have been
up and coming. I like that. I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The Danny, the Knicks, Pappas, Ryan Bajorn. I mean, even Travis Hogan, I would put in there. Like they create the best opportunity for their crew and themselves to be successful with what they're given. And the way they pick their battles on certain things is just like, I would never be able to like be that person. You know what I mean?
100%.
Which I'm going through that right now with, I can't, we'll talk about that another time, but the growing at not even growing, the construction of the field. The original spec, this is, I'll just say this part of it. The original spec was keeping 40% of my field in.
Yeah, I heard our friend at Mountain View Seat gave me a quick rundown of it.
Oh, did he?
Our minor league meetings. Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
I'm sorry. So we don't have to.
No, you're good.
But I would.
No, again, that's all I was gonna say. Like just that in my mind was like.
It's the same thing in baseball, like the John Turnauers, the Greg Elliott's, the Larry DeVitos, I can't think of the Marlins guy right off the top.
Chad Mulholman.
But they're all, I would group them as the baseball versions of the Dannys, the Travises, the Ryans, because they are the up and coming generation who's a little bit more patient, who's a little bit more understanding of the politics, who saw the errors that their bosses were making before them and how much fighting, I guess, was happening and struggles they might have seen. And they said, no, I'm going to do it differently when I'm in their position. And they are, and they took advantage of that. And it's slowly turning our respect in the eyes of our front offices to, oh, they are the professional at the table. They are the best knowledge person at the table. We need their opinion on this decision.
For sure.
And it's going to take those types of people who are willing to be a professional, who show up to meetings in a clean quarter zip or polo and pants, who represent themselves and their crews the best they can and explain all the options in scientific and data terms that the front office understands. And it's a huge push forward from where I think we were 10 years ago, seeing those conversations being had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's changing our relationships with our front offices, and it's changing how we look to them.
We touched base on it, and Danny's going to be pissed off after this episode because of Hollywood and all that. But Danny, we were talking about how he set the precedent.
We've been calling him a
I know, but again, it just means he's a great guy. So he set that precedent, with the whole NFL field on MLS game day. Like that's again, I still can't believe that was even possible.
But
But
imagine going into that meeting and being like, we have to do it this way, and
there's no other way.
Coming in confrontational, coming in dirty and paint soaked, and
instead
not
Danny
representing
coming in calm, cool, and collected like he always is, and is nice, buttoned up, and that was one of the things that he taught my kids when we were there. Was like they had a meeting, and luckily my kids helped out cleaning up stuff afterwards. But it was like a whole staff meeting, so it was not just him. He made everyone get changed, made sure they were in slacks, polo, everything, so that again, when you're looked at in a room full of your peers that again are front office people and they're showing up in sweatpants and you're showing up all dressed up, they mean business when they show up, like you were saying. So
yeah. And I mean, I learned that from Joe Hill, and I'm sure Danny learned that from Joe Hill, and John Turnauer are both huge advocates for, if you want to be treated like a professional, act like a professional, dress like a professional, speak like a professional. Don't come in guns blazing because you're all wound up and pissed off. I've been guilty of it. Sometimes.
Never, Leah. Oh.
But I do make an effort to like wear a collared shirt when I go up to the front office. And I make an effort to wear clean jeans when I go up, and clean shoes, and to represent myself, who can make decisions and be trusted to be making those decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I try and hide, behind like a quarter zip. I don't put a collar shirt on, Sometimes, most of the time, I used to do it a lot, and then I got, the COVID year kind of screwed me up.
Well, a quarter zip is a collared shirt. This is a quarter zip. A quarter zip is a collared shirt.
Okay, fine. I'm very professional then.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than wearing a cutoff t-shirt or a paint soaked t-shirt, or
ain't nobody seeing me in a cutoff t-shirt. You crazy?
Now, granted, like Sundays, like day to day, teams out of town, like yeah, I'm gonna wear a comfy dry fit t-shirt. I don't have a meeting that day, or I slip on a polo. Like the representation of yourself and your crew is huge in gaining that trust from people that you want it from.
And that's the other thing, is like understanding you're going to the people that have the power. That's the big part that I think. I don't know where they learned it from, but like, being again that up and coming generation versus the original generation, like original generation, there are people that have taught, like you're talking about John and everybody, like who again, just for always a professional, like you never see John without a polo on, to having some of them that really were the ones that showed up in the meetings with stain covered stuff and all these other things. Like, where did we get lucky enough? Like, again, up and coming generation was seen as lazy, not knowing what they're doing, not caring, like all these things, but they're able to be the ones that are being the professionals that are going to change the game for us, that change the future of the industry. Like, how do we relay that is my thing, I
think it's when you get interns in and when you're representing yourself on social media, like, yeah, I do show us scooping around and having fun, but I also show like us doing business and like how much work it actually takes. Like I try to showcase the full picture. Like I said before, like getting to see all aspects of this job is a huge part of it. But it's also when I have interns in here, like there is a dress code. There is like an expectation of how you represent yourself and this crew and how you interact with coaches and players and front office people, and when it's appropriate to wear certain things and not. Like, I think it's, as I came up in it with Joe, who always was wearing a collared shirt, quarter zip polo, whatever it was. He always cleaned up for meetings. Like, shout out Joe Hill. It's stuff like that you take in as a young person, that you notice as a young person, and you notice the guys that don't more. Like, you really notice, like, he's not representing us. He's not representing me.
You're that guy.
So like you filter out like what you want and what you kind of lean towards as a person coming up in it. I mean, there are certain groundskeepers that like had a reputation, and I talked to him and I was like, this guy was unfairly judged. Matt Parrott is a perfect example. Like, that man you've never seen smile, but he is truly one of the smartest, nicest guys I've met in this industry, who truly cares about his job, again, as a professional in the eyes of not only sports field managers, but his front office and other people in minor league baseball. So like, he does a really good job of showcasing that side of it, but is unfairly judged because he can be crabby sometimes. But
I do love that guy.
I love Matt Parrott. Shout out Matt Parrott as well. But it's just showcasing yourself and you're
Absolutely.
being authentic. Hashtag keyword.
Hashtag buzzword.
Buzzwords. Authentic.
Community.
And people will flock to you if you are authentic, and they feel that. I don't know.
No, they do. That's the biggest thing. And it's funny because like, it's not just our industry type thing. It is just a life thing. You know, if you're an authentic person, people are drawn to you. Like, for prime example,
Connect with you better.
100%. I have teachers come to me like, how do you get this kid to behave? Like, how do you get that? I'm like, what are you talking about behave? If this kid does anything wrong, it's crazy to me in my mind. You know, like, I didn't know that he was misbehaving in other classes. Like, I'll talk to him. Like, it's things like that where like, I'm just open with my kids. Like, I'm an open book. Like, I'm not here to hide anything. I'm not here to like be shady. I'm not here to like, I'm here to be, and again, the best way I relay what I do as a teacher is sort of like their boss, you know, like I'm not here to be your friend in a way, but at the same time, I'm not going to not be relatable to you. Like, I wouldn't, like, Max is your friend. I'm not going to like, we shouldn't, is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
So like,
Max is my assistant for people who are listening.
Shout out Max.
Shout
but
out
again,
Casper.
with all of those things, like, everything works better because of the fact that you, again, have that relationship and the stuff that you have built there, it works, you know?
Well, people resonate with authenticity.
Yeah.
Like, it builds trust between you because I'm not hiding anything from Max. Like, he knows how I'm feeling most days, if I'm having a good day or I'm having a bad day. And then we can accurately judge what we're going to do that day and who's going to be separated from who, and if we're going to actually work together that day. Like, that's just our relationship. That's how we work, and it's worked out well. But it's the same for your students. Yeah. Well, you're same with your students. They resonate with your authenticity, and they truly trust you and believe you have their best interest in mind because you've expressed that to them.
Yeah.
And you were authentic about that. And you didn't just be like spewing untrue things to them and things you don't believe in, or things that you don't believe that they're capable of, or whatever else. You're not just telling them just to tell them something. You're telling them because you truly believe they need to hear it.
Absolutely. Yep. And the other thing is, I can't run away. I'm legally responsible for them. You know, I can't run away from the kids. So, oh gosh. One of the other big, it wasn't a buzzword, but big themes in our talk, I think, was the lack of awareness, you know. And my question for you is, like, obviously we saw that in that room, and obviously we saw everyone sort of like, okay, yes, we understand what you're saying, and you going through your TikToks and you talking about all these things, like, they started saying, okay, these are ways we can do it. How much do you think that actually got across to people in the sense of, like, you're going to see more of it? Like, here's one thing that I, like, mentally and like physically, what I've noticed, the people that were in that room that, like, again, we know, and some that I like kind of know, I've seen them be more active on social media. You know, like, I've seen more, like,
I did too. I've noticed it a lot since our talk.
I'm
glad it's not just me. I noticed.
I was like, okay, this is weird because, like, people are actually listening to us, and I don't know why. So, I mean,
yeah, I have noticed there were, personally, but I follow them and I'm starting to see them comment on people's stuff. I'm seeing them post more stuff about their own facilities. And I'm like, okay, they understood what I was trying to say. The lack of awareness is because we aren't sharing what we're doing.
Yeah.
our lack of awareness is because we are behind the scenes people, which is the nature of our job, but it doesn't have to be to the extent that we've historically had it. It's been the secret on how the grass is so green. It's been the secret on how to prep a field, or it's been the secret on how to prep a mound. Like, it doesn't have to be a secret. Everybody knows. We can tell the general public, this is what we do every day. This is why when you walk into Yankee Stadium, Coors Field, Oracle Park, whatever, when you walk in that day, it looks so good. When you watch it on TV, you know why it looks so good. You know how the stripes magically got in there. Like, it's such a cool feeling to like pull that curtain away and to like show people who have no idea. They genuinely just don't know. And like, I didn't know 5-10 years ago how it all happened. And like getting to spread the word and show awareness, like that's exciting to me. Like, that's why I do it. Like, told us in the presentation, like, as I post for my fellow groundskeepers who understand our struggles and laugh at things that we do, that chasing geese off the field, and like, yeah, it's funny because we all go through it. But then like the general public who's not in the ballpark right now doesn't see that. And like, they want to know, why can't the geese be on the field? Well, they eat the grass and all these other things. But getting to explain that to somebody, that's a whole new audience I've never had before, who's genuinely curious, who wants answers, and I'm happy to give them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the big thing with, I mean, I don't even know what the right term for is, but I think I lost you.
I'm here.
Okay, sorry.
I'm just not moving.
I'm that boring. Wow. I think that, again, when we were talking about like seeing people actually post and like take like awareness to what we were saying, you know, like I'll call him out. I know Ryan posted something about his heating system, you know, like that his fields look phenomenal and people don't even know that he's in New England with them, you know, like that's like unheard of to see that green of a grass that north of the parallel, if you want to say, you know, when it comes to, again, being in an Arctic situation, you know, which brings awareness for other NFL groundkeepers and MLS groundkeepers that don't really have those sort of luxuries. Well, I'm going to call them out. Tennessee, they don't have a heating system. They don't have those things that are needed to have like a Travis Hogan level type of field. And the fact that that article again said something about something that they don't do, and I'm just not gonna get mad. Be quiet. Be the professional.
I commented.
The professional. I saw that too. I was laughing at you. I was like,
hot button topic.
Yeah. Well,
in our world, and gotta fight the urge. Button topic, and it is frustrating because after hearing players complain all season about artificial fields and then go put a new one is intuitive and seems ironic, but those decisions are being made without groundskeepers in the room, and that's where our awareness needs to come in. That's where professional, they don't know what they don't know, and trying to be the professional in the room to educate them helps our grow our industry. It helps build a relationship with ownership and players to make a better decision.
yeah.
Listening to any of this,
I am, but
you kind of cut out for a minute.
Yeah, you're cutting out big. I'm sorry. That's my fault. I heard a lot. I heard like bringing awareness to the owners, bringing awareness to the coaches. I mean, I straight up called out the coach on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that.
Mm-mm.
I said, well, you know, the groundskeeper is the first insurance policy on a $50 million investment, called out Derrick Henry on there. And there is scientific based fact about how injuries are more prone on synthetic fields. Why take the risk, Mike Rabel? I was like, should I send this or will I get in trouble with my friends? But
I mean, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother podcast, but it just goes back to the lack of awareness thing. And it's just making our presence and our knowledge known that like we are a professional who does this for a living day to day, who some of us went to school for, some of us certifications in, some of us have learned under some of the best. And we've spent years and years, things are changing technology wise, and we're increasing how we do those things. But it's the lack of awareness. It's people not knowing the behind the curtain people that are in charge of these decisions. Now, Danny's done a good job of making his presence known. Travis has done a great job of making his presence known within his organization. But it's because Travis is also on Twitter and showing the Kansas City fans who are diehards. Chiefs fans, I did not realize was quite the mafia.
Didn't know that.
But looking at his Twitter, like I'll go look at the comments and like half are groundskeepers, but half are just the general public who are genuinely interested in what he does. Think of him as
genuinely
a professional.
Love him.
Yeah, they soak up all the information he's giving about their field. And like Kansas City fans love it. The Kansas City population loves it. The general population loves it. And it's interesting information that people want to know about. So like, as much as we tweet for each other, and yeah, it's cool to see him growing such a great field in the middle of January in Kansas City. Like that gets my like groundskeeper heart happy. But it makes me even happier knowing that the general public is learning as well. And they're doing what he's doing. Like, that's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more on when it comes to, we talked about broadening our community. Cause I think one of my favorite parts was actually like one of the first slides, obviously the interaction part, but like trying to get everyone to go back to that time where like you didn't know, like, again, I can't tell you how many hours I spent on my high school baseball field working on it, not knowing that there are people that do this for a living, you know, like on the highest level, you know, like that was never a thought in my mind until, again.
And now you can scroll through Twitter and see anybody doing it. And that's the beautiful part of being in it now.
You can see a Leah Withrow doing it, you know.
You can. It's riveting stuff.
Riveting stuff, you know. Oh gosh. No, but I mean, like, again, we talked about the network, and that was my second, well, probably actually my favorite part was when your connections and everything that led to the ACC championship and all that. I think you and I also sort of in a way made a great connection about the network and how that impacts bringing awareness and how that impacts bringing the next generation. So I think that was sort of a underlying thing of like how significant the network really is to create.
Well, I think it physically showed people in the room. Like, I think we all have a network of like basic people we talk to maybe once a week, every other week. We all have our fellow groundskeeper friends that we've came up in the industry with or whatever. And I think we take it for granted, and being able to see it in the presentation, like how of our flow chart of me meeting Danny, me meeting you, me putting you two together for a podcast, and then you guys developing that relationship to be able to bring your kids out, like getting to see the progression of just like a simple friendship that Danny and I have, the simple friendship you and I have, getting to put the two together to bring such an amazing event to your kids, like so simple and so overthought. Like, we talk to these people on the daily, but we never think like, oh, what can I do to bring these two people together to get something bigger?
Yeah.
And getting to see the full video, you put together a great video of the kids there that that weekend, and like getting to see like them doing everything, and like Danny showing Zach what to do, me hanging out with Liz, like showing those connections between professionals and students, showing they're more than capable of painting that entire field without us, honestly.
Yeah.
And getting to see then you talking about like what came out of that trip was half of those kids on that trip applying for turf programs. Crazy. That's huge. That's awesome. Because I just happen to know Danny. I brought 3-4 more kids into the turf world because I know somebody. That's how crazy our network is in this industry. Like, take advantage of it.
For sure. For sure.
I'm not.
Yes, you are. Stop it.
I just know
I'm gonna
people.
play your song for you. I was fully expecting you to start dancing in the middle of the presentation. I was like, wait for it.
I like that song in the video.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh. It was a good one. It took me like 2 days to figure out what song, so I'm glad you like it.
I know your students were judging you, but I liked it.
Thank you. That's all that matters, you know. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time, and as you always know, thank you for everything that you do, not just for this industry, but for my kids and for me and everything. You know, I love you and I appreciate you more than anyone. So
appreciate you, and you know, if your kids need anything, I'm always around.
Yes, I do, and they do too.
I know I'm busy, in air quotes, busy, but I can make time for the important stuff.
Air quotes are very real quotes. Okay.